drivers. 2 races remain. This week, the road to the championship takes us to a world away. Motegi, Japan. Through 15 races this season, the points lead has changed twice, and only between these 2 drivers. Will Power started this season from the front, and he's dominated the summer stretch of road courses. Heading into the final 4 races, which are all on ovals, his lead was 59 points. But a Franchitti win in Chicago diminished his lead to 23 points. Paired with an 8th place finish in Kentucky, left Will Power only 17 points ahead of defending champion Dario Franchitti. Today, in the land of the rising sun, Will Power must rise to the occasion on this oval opportunity of Motegi. A win here for Power would silence his critics, but a victory for Franchitti could prove costly to this season's rising star. The IZOD IndyCar Series has made its annual trek to the land of the rising sun, and today the Indy Japan 300 brings the battle for the season championship one step closer to being settled. It's the 8th appearance of the IZOD IndyCar Series here at Twin Ring Motegi. Let's go down for the command.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine.
Now that was an enthusiastic driver start your engines, wasn't it?
Good. That was a good start. I like that
sure
start.
Was. Well, the cars do fire to life here. We got 25 drivers set to go. And here's a look at the starting grid, which contains 5 former winners here. While you take a look at the lineup, we'll give you a few facts. 2 drivers, Danica Patrick and Dan Weldon, won their first series races here. 4 events have been won from the pole position. The most recent was just last year by Scott Dixon. 11 of the 25 drivers in the field have led laps here at Motegi. Dixon has led the most laps. The most lead changes we ever had here was 13 in '98 and in '03, and the most leaders, 7. That occurred 3 times in '98, '02, and '05. And only once has the race winner gone on to win the championship in the same year, and that was Dan Weldon in 2005. So something for both Dario Franchitti and Will Power to keep in mind as the cars begin to pull away now. They will get the green flag the 3rd time by the start-finish line. As we have indicated, this is kind of a odd-shaped racetrack. Turns 1 and 2 are rather wide, but it's a much tighter radius when the cars get to turns 3 and 4. And we have seen drivers, in fact, shift down 2 gears as they enter turn number 3. Onboard cameras will be carried by Hideki Muto, whose father is in the grandstand today and watching his son in an IZOD IndyCar Series race for the very first time. There's Hideki as he warms up the Firestone Firehawks, getting ready to go. Danica Patrick is hoping for a repeat from 2 years ago when she captured the hearts of millions of race fans in taking her first victory.
Sounds good. Get a little bit of heat in those tires,
Sato racing in his home country for the first time since the Formula 1 2007 Japanese Grand Prix. Dan Weldon, the only 2-time winner here. He's never finished worse than 8th. Ryan Hunter-Reay, whose string of 8 straight top 10 finishes was broken 2 weeks ago at Kentucky. And Tony Kanaan, who is the only driver to compete in all of the open wheel races that have been held here, and he won the event in 2007. Here's the race strategy opinion from Jack Arute.
Fellows, we all know it's going to take about 3 pit stops. You may short fill on one depending on the number of cautions. But I think the determining factor that all these strategists are going to have to deal with is the weather. We've talked about it since we went on the air. This is the hottest ambient temperature that an IndyCar race in the IZOD IndyCar Series has ever contested here in Japan. Track temperature-wise, it's also hotter. The record previous to this was set back in 2005 in April. So what does that mean, fellas? Well, Robbie and Jan, you know, you're going to have to twist on the cars, taking a look at putting wing in, taking wing out, and tire pressure choices during the pit stops will help compensate for the ever-escalating temperatures.
And Jack, of course, when you did that interview with Danica Patrick, she really laid out a very good point. You don't really want to change the car, Robbie, prior to the start, but as soon as you get a feel for it, you might want to be looking for adjustments.
Yeah, she used the word consistency, and I think that's going to be the key. You want to have a consistent car. And remember, you got your onboard tools with the weight jacker and bars.
Former winners here at Twin Ring Motegi, which also includes a road course. Adrian Fernandez won twice. The two-time winner Dan Weldon is in today's field. Michael Andretti also a former winner here, as is Elio, Kanan, Patrick, and Scott Dixon. Great crowd on hand. We were noticing just while Jack was doing some of his pre-race activity how the crowd filled in very, very nicely. I think this may be the largest crowd ever at this place.
The way they wrap around turns 1 and 2 and go all the way around, yeah. I think that's as full as it's ever been.
Holiday weekend certainly has made a big difference. Now the race, of course, being on Sunday in Japan.
Right. Okay, well, the cars begin to line up 2 by 2 now as we get set for the start of the Indy Japan 300. Team Penske sweeping the first 3 qualifying positions. Off of corner number 4 they come. And the Apex Brazil green flag is waving, and Elio gets in front of his teammate as they go to turn number 1.
Rafael Matos, blue and silver, actually got below the line and back up again. What a great start.
Wow.
And did you watch the guys, the 1, 2, 3 all slotted in right by start-finish line, and then that game changed.
Dario just got power.
And look at that is Marco in the red and black car on the high side of power.
Man, he is way up high.
Power's dropping back.
And look at Marco.
Remember what his plan, though. Just because he's dropping back now, he's just maybe being a little bit cautious. He's got that championship on his mind.
Dan Weldon also passing by Scott Dixon. We're on board with Danica Patrick. And we have a yellow in turn number 2. And it looks like it's Bertrand Baguette. Boy, we have paid so many compliments to Bertrand because of his adaptation, if you will, to the ovals.
Well, and just what he did last weekend.
Yeah.
You know, as you said, he qualified in the top 10, finished in the top 10. And I was just about to say, this is really a tricky track the first couple laps, because 1 and 2, there's some pretty big bumps there. You got about 3 different grooves you can run. You get up in that high groove where it gets dirtier just because people are checking up. You kind of think, oh, I can get up here. But that section usually gets some folks caught out. So you're building that pressure and temperature in the tires, and that was only our second time by.
Bertrand was coming off his best finish of the year. He came in 10th at Kentucky after his best start of the year. He lined up in the 3rd row.
And Robbie, I know you've lived it. If your car is too low and if you crash across that bump, it is a long day. And of course, we get this post the bump. The bump is about in the middle of the corner. We don't know if he's been chasing it since the bump, but you say when the car's heavy and the pressures are low, it really tags the ground.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. I mean, just that you're going to hammer the ground all that much more, just like we saw Dixon do when he had that downforce, extra downforce in the car, just put that thing down there. Good to see him moving.
Yeah.
And where we just saw him clip the wall, that's coming off a 2. So it really is. We may say, oh boy, that looks like it was further in the corner, but things happen so fast with doing 200 miles an hour through there. That probably happened close to the middle portion of the corner where that biggest bump is in between 1 and 2, and just kind of slid straight across.
Baguette walks to the ambulance. He looks to be in good shape. He'll be checked over, but it has brought the first caution flag out here at Twin Ring Motegi, as Will Power looking for his championship, and Dario Franchitti hoping to upset Will Power's points lead going into this race.
The Indy Japan 300 on Versus is brought to you by Honda, the engine supplier for the IndyCar series, and by IZOD, the official apparel.
It's the NHL Face-Off 2010 as the puck drops on a new season. Thursday, October 7th, 6:30 Eastern, the Keystone State rivalry renewed as the Flyers clash with the Penguins. Then at 10 Eastern, the defending Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks face off against the Avalanche. Hockey lives on Versus. The worst thing about October, the auto racing season ends. The best thing about October is hockey is back on Versus. Looking forward to this season. We are under caution here at Twin Ring Motegi because of a crash that involved Bertrand Baguette.
Good job, mate, being
on
steady
board
and
with
careful.
Takuma
No one could run up out of the groove on those opening laps.
And what you're hearing from is Nick Harvey, because every other race this year, Roger Yasukawa has been the spotter for Takuma Sato, but he's driving today.
Yeah.
So Nick Harvey's taken over those spotter duties.